Enjoy early access to ad-free episodes each week when you subscribe to Wedding Planning Podcast Premium in Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the show. And with that, let's unpack your follow-up wedding etiquette questions, starting with a summary of multiple questions that came in asking, what's the etiquette with choosing our wedding parties? Who should we ask, and how can I handle hurt feelings? Great question. I mean, to start with, it's your wedding. And I think the most timeless advice I have is to select your wedding party in terms of the people who have played a huge support role in your life up to this point and who you continue to see in your life for years to come. This is not a perfect science. Obviously, things and people change. And among my closest friends who have been married within the past decade, I can point to a handful of wedding party members who didn't exactly stand the test of time and where they eventually grew apart. That's not the end of the world. It happens. And you've got plenty on your plate right now as you are planning your wedding that you definitely don't need to be feeling like you need a perfect crystal ball to see what your friendships are going to look like 2 decades into the future. I think when you sit with this question for a few days and you really honestly take inventory of your existing friendships, you can fairly accurately identify who has been and who will continue to be a ride or die friend for you for the next 20 years of your life. Which leads perfectly into an extension of this question, which is, she had me as a bridesmaid. Do I have to now invite her to be a bridesmaid for me? My answer is no. Now, depending on the situation and your relationship, you may need to have a candid / uncomfortable / really honest conversation about your feelings and about your specific reasons for not reciprocating that honor. But that's life. We have to have hard conversations with our loved ones. It's unavoidable. A very close personal example here. I was my cousin's maid of honor in her wedding, and my cousin was not even in my wedding party at all because she had 3 young kids at the time that I got married. She lived across the country and she couldn't travel to take part in any of the pre-wedding events or the wedding itself. So I did not ask her to be a bridesmaid. There were no hard feelings. That's just what the situation was. Sometimes we spend a lot of time spinning our wheels and going deep down rabbit holes of trying to over-explain ourselves, when in reality, just outlining the actual reason in an honest way is really all you have to do. And one more question still on the topic of wedding parties. What about paying for hair and makeup? Whose responsibility is this? It's funny because when I see most of these etiquette related questions, I can immediately separate my instinctual response from the response that I know you would get from Google, from a wedding chat room, a Facebook group, etc. And since it's my podcast, we're going to go with my answer, which is, my opinion on hair and makeup is that if you are offering professional hair and makeup as optional, then you can also ask that each bridal party member pays for her own hair and makeup. So in other words, if you're giving people the choice to either do it themselves or to take advantage of a professional service, and they choose to do the professional service, then I think it's okay to make it clear that you will not be paying for that and that that cost is their responsibility. Now, on the flip side of this, if you are mandating, and that's really kind of a harsh word, but I think you get the point. If you are not making it optional and you are mandating that the bridal party all have their hair and makeup done professionally, then that to me is a very different situation. And that to me is your bill to pay. Will everyone agree with me on this? No, much like anything else we talk about on this show, and that's totally fine, but that's just the way that I see it. Okay, switching gears, how about inviting select kids? Having a no kids or a kids-free wedding, adult-only wedding, this is all a very, very hot topic, and I would recommend being really careful with inviting select kids. In most cases, in terms of inviting children to a wedding, I say it's all or nothing. Either everyone's kid can come or no one's kid can come. Of course, as with everything, there are always special situations and exceptions when we're talking about immediate family, breastfeeding infants who can't be away from mom for an entire day, and a million more nuanced situations. I've heard all too many stories of parents spending hundreds of dollars on a babysitter and then showing up to find out that there are actually 20 other kids there. And that is just not a good feeling to a wedding guest. As a parent myself, I would be really, really annoyed to find out that some kids were fine to be there, but apparently mine were not. Unless it was a very special circumstance. And again, I'm not going to outline a million what ifs and when it's okay and when it's not okay here. But for a blanket simplified answer, I would be careful inviting select children, and I would say best to lean to an all or nothing policy in terms of having kids at the wedding. Okay, next one. Our ceremony chapel is tiny. Is it okay to invite a larger group to the reception? I say yes. I think that's totally fine. In a perfect world, there would be plenty of room for everyone at both events. But as we all know, reality is not always perfect. You will definitely need to find a way to very clearly delineate who is invited to what. And you can do this either via your wedding website or by segmenting your physical invitations and making sure that the distinction is crystal clear. I know that lots of wedding website builders do give you the ability to invite select guests to select events and to RSVP for those right on your website. So that would be a perfect way of managing this situation. And next up on our etiquette Q&A, what's the etiquette surrounding sending thank you notes? How long do we have? This is another funny one that jumps to my mind because some online sources say you have 1 year to send your wedding thank you cards. 1 year is a really long time. Please do not wait a year. I would personally say 2 to 4 weeks max, because when I think about it, what is waiting longer than a month really going to accomplish? The wedding is over, your planning responsibilities are done. Sitting down for a few minutes each day to express your gratitude to the people who you love most in the entire world, that, in my book, that should not be a huge chore. It should be joyous, it should be fulfilling. So carry your thank you cards along with you during the day, take them to work on a few during breaks, at work, at school, while you're in the waiting room at the dentist's office for a few minutes in the morning over coffee, or in the evening over a glass of wine. I can relate to it not sounding completely appealing to spend 4 hours on a Saturday writing out 100 thank you cards. That sounds like it would be pretty exhausting. So break it down into a few a day over the course of a couple weeks, and you'll be done. And then somewhat related, while we're on thank you notes, make sure that you have a system for keeping track of who sent what as you're opening gifts and receiving packages in the mail in the months and the weeks leading up to your wedding. Because if you don't keep on top of that, otherwise sending proper thank you notes becomes a lot more work and backtracking than is necessary. And then our final etiquette question, and a bunch came in on this topic, is related to a dress code or special attire requests. Is it okay to ask our guests to dress in a certain theme or certain colors? I don't see any problem with making a fun suggestion in terms of a theme or colors, But I do see a problem with being upset if not every single person actually complies with your suggestion. So if you ask people to wear tropical shirts to your welcome party and Uncle Lou shows up in a button-down shirt and tie, you're just going to have to get over it. It's your wedding celebration. It's not Catholic grade school. And full compliance with any dress code that you propose is probably not going to happen. In the rare, very rare situation where your venue does have a non-negotiable dress code, this does exist, believe it or not, still in this day, such as men in suits, ladies in dresses. And I'm thinking of the Detroit Athletic Club and the Fancy Hotel on Mackinac Island for any fellow Michigan listeners. If that is your very rare situation, then you're going to need to approach that very differently. But again, that's a very rare exception. Okay, that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I do have an open door for your wedding questions. You can find me at weddingplanningpodcast.co/contact. I would love to hear from you. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll meet here again next week, same time, same place.